Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday and I'm in some random hotel somewhere in the world, uh, it's Warhammer. So, at any rate, yes, I am. This is a road show, so I'm traveling, but we're still going to do the show today. Hopefully, everybody can hear me okay. I'll wait a few minutes before I really get into it, just to make sure to have somebody confirm that we're good and everybody can hear me all right. Everything should be working fine. But today we are going to talk about best and worst faction focuses. We're going to talk about these things in general, what I think are some of the best and worst of them, and so on and why. I'm not really going to deep dive into every army because that's a waste of time. This will probably be a relatively short show because I am traveling, but I thought it'd be a good chance. It's also a very auspicious day since it's the day that the Slaanesh article is released, and I've got a lot of things to say. So, yeah, let's get into it. So, we'll start off with just some news, some quick things, just some quick hits here at the top. First off, normally rumor engines like this are very boring, but this rumor engine happens to look very much like a Graveguard glaive, which the Graveguard were specifically like the ones left out of the last refresh for Soulblight Gravelords. So I can only hope that this means that they're actually going to get refreshed models for Graveguard. If so, that would be awesome. Because the existing Graveguard are dumb little idiots. And they look ugly. And they are from millions of years ago. And they are tiny compared to even regular skeletons. And it doesn't make any sense. So hopefully, this heralds new Graveguard, which would be awesome. So pretty simple there. Ba-boop. Other big news. We're going to fight over a place, everybody. We're going to fight over a place called Hellcrown. It's a town here. I loved this updated map in the article. This showed kind of the reach of the Skaven infestation in Akshi. And boy, oh boy, is it big. The Skaven are not messing around here. So, I love this. I love this new insertion of the Gnaw. I love all of these, sort of Skaven bastions and stuff like that. Vexport, like that's a cool name. Just a bunch of really awesome stuff. I know we never did part 6 of the Dawnbringer story. I promise we will do that at some point so we can catch up and understand what happened between the two. But at any rate, it's cool. It was cool to see this, and ultimately the reports from from stores and stuff like that will be how we determine whether the city stands or falls. So, do Skaven win or do the Forces of Order win? I'm personally hoping for Skaven. But anyways, I thought this was just a really beautiful map that kind of shows just how big this is, because this is a huge amount of territory the Skaven claimed when Skaven Blight came up. Okay. So yes, don't worry, Darius. We're going to talk about it. Okay, so that's it. That's most of our news. I mean, everything else is faction focuses, which we're going to talk about. Obviously, we're going to skip a little hobby time, just because I'm on the road. I have no time for hobby. I've been on the road since almost I did last week's show. So I haven't really had much chance to do any hobby. A lot of travel here, unfortunately, in my schedule. But that's okay. There's plenty of hobby waiting when I get home for sure. Not really early for me. This is actually mid-afternoon because I'm traveling and I'm in Europe right now. So this is actually midday. So congratulations, European audience. You win. You win today. So there you go. All right. Okay. So let's see. Yes, my wife is here as well. There you go. Hello.
Hello.
There you go, dear. I love you. Okay. So, let's talk about faction focuses. I mean, we're just going to get straight into it. I do have a pick of the week, and it relates to faction focuses. So I'm just going to throw it out there real quick. I read a great article on Goonhammer all about why they like the faction focuses and like the the sort of speculation game and trying to figure out what's going on and stuff like that. It's very much the opposite, I guess, of the opinion that I have about the thing. And so, but I thought it was a really well written article. It was good. I enjoyed it, and so I saw no issue with that point of view, and I get it. I get why people love reading through these things. I'll link the Goonhammer article below. It was certainly an interesting read. And if you're one of those people who likes reading part of the information and speculating and thinking it through and all of that, by all means, I don't want to rain on your parade, okay? I want to encourage people to, like, they do these articles. If you enjoy them, great. I'm happy for you. That's great for you. That is my simple reply. I personally do not like these very much and find them to be mostly a negative thing because they either, as he points out, no one complains when things look really good, even though you might be seeing only half the story and the rest could be bad. But everyone does complain when things look bad and you don't see the rest and it could be good. But the point in the article is that the speculation was the value alone. Just going through the process is fun. It's fun to think about Warhammer. And on that point, I do certainly and completely agree. Okay, so let's get over to the faction focuses and talk about these. Let's transition into our main topic today, which is these faction focus articles. Yeah, so we've got a lot of them now. We're almost done. Chances are we'll get our last ones basically next week or whatever. A lot of people being excited at the EU friendly time of the stream. I'm glad for it. Thank you, everyone. It's late afternoon, obviously EU time, so hopefully it's a good time for everyone. Let's just talk about Slaanesh. I'm going to use this one to talk about this as a emblematic example of the rest of these faction focuses. So we'll talk about this one specifically in a little more detail than we will talk about the rest. But for good reason, because I think it's emblematic of a lot of the stuff. So blah, 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 narrative. You know what this is. I'm not sure who this is for, but they have to include it almost required. If you're playing Slaanesh, you know all of this. If you're not playing Slaanesh, you probably still know all of this. And that brings us to the battle traits. So the way they've decided to do all these articles is by showing you basically all of the battle traits, one of the sub-factions, the new battle formations or whatever, and then, a smattering of other, usually like 4 war scrolls. Whoever the big powerful centerpiece person is in your army. If you have a named character, it's that one. Otherwise, it's just some big thing. And then, or usually, that is to say, it's not always the case, but usually it's the case. And then, a couple, basically some range of other people throughout the faction. And obviously, this is all devoid of points and stuff like that. So, you do get a very skewed picture of the faction. If it comes out and everything is, let's say, 30% higher in points than you think, no matter how good the rules are, you're bad. Now, points can adjust over time and all of that, but so on. My argument is basically these things prevent a really skewed version of it, but some things that we can see completely, we can still make judgments on. So let's talk about Slaanesh's battle traits. An excess of depravity. Here's the long and short of this. You pick 3 friendly Hedonites of Slaanesh units. They get to be euphoric. Euphoric means they have crit 2 hits, and they can run and shoot or charge. Okay? So you can give 3 units, crit 2 hits, and run and charge or run and shoot. But each time you pick a unit and give them this ability, you give your opponent a temptation dice. They can use 1 temptation dice to replace, so they can do it after they roll it, 1 wound roll, save roll, ward roll, run roll with a 6. Now, hit is not on there for obvious reasons, because then it would turn on all of the crit mortal and crit 2 hits and crit auto wound and all of that. So they left hit off. Or you can replace 2 temptation, or they can use 2 of the dice to auto boxcar as a charge. Each time your opponent uses a temptation dice, they roll a die, and on a 33% chance, some minorly bad thing happens. Who cares? And at the end of the battle round, they either use them or lose them. Okay, so this is your only battle trait for Slaanesh. This is terrible. Now, is this an improvement over the last one? Yes. Yes, it is. That's like saying that, you know, uh, getting dying in my sleep is an improvement over falling into a wood chipper. Like, yeah, that sounds like a more pleasant way to go, but I'm dead in either scenario. Okay. This is bad. This is super bad. And I read their explanation later in the article, and I don't know if they just didn't playtest this or think this through or not, but this is really terrible. Let me explain how this is going to work. If you, and I have some amount of experience with this one because I got a chance to see this in action sometime back. Here's what's going to happen with this. If you're dumb enough to actually give your units your special abilities, okay, and you pick 2 units or more, so you pick 2 or 3 units, to actually have special abilities. Because a bunch of your scrolls are not going to have special abilities other than you giving them this. They're just going to be base people who attack. So if you actually give them special abilities, if you're foolish enough to use your battle trait, your reward for that is that you get to basically fail every battle tactic. Because the bunch of battle tactics we've seen are like, go stand in a place and don't have anybody near you. Or something like that, to that equivalent. Or do this, fight this thing and don't die. Okay? And what you've handed your opponent with this is an automatic boxcar's charge. Something in the game that is really, really, really rare. And like, it's crazy to me that they wrote this. Your chance of rolling a 6 on a wound die is 1 in 6. Same with ward and everything else. It's 1 die, right? And 1 wound roll is bad. Like your opponent being able to automatically wound with 1 or 2 or 3 more attacks on some mega hitter, some Death Star mega hitter, is still serious. Like if something's laying into your unit and it's like rend 3, damage 5, and they duff 2 of the wound rolls, they roll 2 1s, their ability to pick 2 of those and just set them to 6s and then obliterate your unit is huge. Okay? That alone would be bad. But the fact that you can boxcars a charge as an enemy, on any unit you want, by the way, because I don't choose which units you get to use the temptation dice on. You just get to use them. And so imagine I'm trying to do a battle tactic, or I don't want to be charged, or whatever. Remember, you're handing your opponent a 12-inch off-turn charge because countercharge exists. So I'll move to a place to try to get a battle tactic. Okay, cool. In response, I'll redeploy. I'll move quicker. I'll spend 2 command points. I'll countercharge. I'll use 2 dice. I'll auto boxcar charge. I charge your unit. You fail your battle tactic. Okay. So that's just going to be the play pattern. Like, it becomes very hard to achieve a lot of the battle tactics if you actually use your battle trait. It just shuts off 4 points a turn. Not every time. There are some that you can still do. But instead, but there's a good number of them it will. Like, you will easily, in a game, drop 2 battle tactics because of this, which means you lose the game. It's that simple. This isn't complicated math. Okay? That's it. But it's worse than that. Because I'm not even through as bad as this is yet. That's what's so shocking about it. The more power per square inch one of your opponents or your opponent has. What do I mean by that? So the bigger, more powerful their centerpiece model is. Okay. Like they're rolling Nagash or Archeon or just a Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon. Like whatever. Okay. Some heavy hitter centerpiece. Handing that opponent those dice is death to your army. Because the yeah, you're right, Hugo, but the point still stands. Like, yes, clearly there's people who will have run and charge, but I mean, they don't always need to necessarily redeploy. There's plenty of off-turn movement / whatever ever / they just charge 12 inches into you. Okay, that to the side. You're right. Normally they'd have to have an extra ability. So the bigger that centerpiece model, the more powerful it is, the worse your battle trait gets. Because the more you're empowering that heavy hitter to always do whatever they need to do optimally. That is to say, to get an extra 12 inches of movement, to auto wound you when you need to survive because we got lucky and they happen to roll bad, to save when they're almost dead, right? The more power they have in a single model, the worse this battle trait gets. Because the more that single model can now kill your whole army. Okay. We're not done yet. This is still worse. It also means that functionally, as Slaanesh, you can't retreat. At least not only with one key unit. Because you can retreat, and unless you're leaving somebody in combat with them, that is to say, like if you've got them double pinned and you can walk away with one unit, fine. But if you're fighting them one-on-one, and you retreat, they have 2 dice. What's the farthest you could possibly retreat realistically? Okay. I will tell you right now, with most units, it's 12 inches. So as a result of that, they can actually then just catch you if they want. If that's beneficial for them to do. So if you're going to retreat and go onto an objective, they'll just go onto the objective with you. If you're going to retreat and so on, they just come after you. If that's beneficial to them. Will they chase you down every time? No. But because oftentimes they just won't need to. It won't be relevant to success in the game. And so this is truly catastrophic. Willard Ward says, can't you account for the 12 inches? You know they'll make the charge, so play around that. Yeah, sure. Try to play around an entire 12-inch bubble with something that says you have to go to a certain point on the battlefield. Your opponent knows you're trying to stay out of 12 as well, buddy. Like, I've gotten to watch this play out. Can you play around this to some degree? Sure, of course. It is an unbelievable pain to do so, but yes, you can sort of play around this. But I cannot explain how catastrophic this is if you just do the dumb thing of using your battle trait that they wrote down and told you to use, you will probably lose the game. It's that simple. Okay. Like, yeah, exactly. Hugo says playing around the 12 inch is very hard. We've seen this with the Glock and countercharge, and I agree completely. Like, sure, maybe you could do it in turn 1 when you have like a perfect board state. You know, they're on that half of the board, you're on this half of the board. It's easy to set it up. Beyond that, it's chaos, and you just can't hold 12-inch bubbles around your entire enemy and still achieve your battle tactics. Like, great, you're going to fail a battle tactic one way or the other here. Okay? So what this usually means is you're going to choose one unit and give them a moderately okay ability. That's it. And you've got to figure out which unit that's going to be at the start of the battle round. I really want to impress that timing upon you as well. This is a start of battle round ability. If you're going second in the round, you got to just guess which unit is going to be the one that's most important and hope you're right. Okay? Because by the time you're through their turn, you pick this unit A. You think it's the one that's the best choice, right? And then they take their turn. Because again, it's start of battle round, not start of your turn. And so you give it to one unit. Great. Okay, they only get 1 dice now, so they can only auto save or auto wound once, which isn't as bad. It's unfortunate, but it's whatever. One of your units gets a passively interesting ability, and then they take their turn. Okay? And in response, they just react to make sure that they neuter the unit you picked as euphoric. Like, they move away from it, they attack it and kill it beforehand, they shoot it, they either kill it or ignore it or interact with it in some way that basically reduces its effectiveness I mean, you have to telegraph it to them. And then they get a full turn to respond. Right? And so then and then it comes around to your turn and you're like, oh, okay, that unit that I picked to be euphoric actually does nothing. So like when you go second in the battle round, this ability is even worse. Folks, I mean, like, I've given you 4 good reasons. And like, if you want to try to defend this, go for it. I welcome it. But that's a big pile of stuff on the negative. Okay? If I was the judges in Blood of Zeus and I'm banging my little gavel to like balance the scales of where your soul goes, boom, this one's going to Tartarus for sure. Okay? It's bad. It's a really bad ability. And so like yeah, I really don't like it and hate playing it, and it sucks that your only battle trait is a thing you don't want to use that actually gives your opponent a buff. So the cool thing is, if you're playing Slaanesh, you get an extra allegiance ability. Isn't that fun? Everybody playing against this army has an extra allegiance ability called Free Dice. Fun times. Give me a break. Okay, so that's terrible. So there you go. Soothsayer, there's not. Okay, so let's talk about this. That's fine. So like, then we get a battle formation or whatever they're called, the sub-faction, and like, it's fine. This one's okay as usual. The whole you get a bonus if you're damaged or you get killed, a thing you never want to do in this army since everything you have is basically made of paper, with one exception we'll see later on. And I agree, Neo. See, the end of season 2 was hype. I really like that show. It's really great. Okay. So at any rate, well, Willard, as I said, I'm not just reading. Okay, so grounding this. I'm not just telling you this because I read the article. I got a chance to actually see this in play. Okay. Like, I have watched this play in a full game. And it's bad. So there you go. That's that. Like, this is speaking from experience, not just theory. Okay. Now, this is fine. Like, whatever with the Sybarite infantry, they talk about the other ones. I'm sure there's a different one that's good. Okay. Sadistic Spite. This is relatively important. You pick a friendly wizard to cast the spell. The target has to be euphoric. So this is your unlimited spell. Remember, your spell lures are 3 spells, one of which is unlimited. You can cast it multiple times, right? And the one that you get that's unlimited can only target euphoric units. So it doesn't matter that it's unlimited, because under most normal circumstances you should never use your allegiance ability more than once. So it's completely irrelevant. Okay. So you switch from crit 2 hits, which is like a good ability. It's fine. It's not amazing, but it's fine. To crit mortal for that unit. Okay. So to get one of my units relatively functional, I have to actually not only hand the opponent a thing. Yeah, correct. Unlimited, so up to 3 times max. Yes, that would be the most you could ever do it, ever. Yes. I not only have to hand my opponent dice, I then have to actually get a spell off. And you know how I feel about that. Like, terrible. Terrible. Spells going off are just, as usual in this game, magic sucks and is like, I mean, it's just, sucks is too strong. Okay, magic is very swingy. There you go. That is simply a factual statement. So, there you go. Neat. Okay. Now let's talk about the brightest spot in this article. Shalaxi Hellbane. Shalaxi's great. I'm not going to read the whole scroll. I've seen Shalaxi work. She's really good. There you go. Like, this is a bright spot. 4 up, 5 up. Great spell. Again, magic is swingy, but at least it's a low number, so you're less likely to fail the cast side of it. You know, like, it's good. I mean, she's just good. The supernatural grace is awesome. Her rampage is really good. She has the excess of violence thing that allows for the double fight. She's great. She's just really good. Like, she is a good unit. I have nothing else to say here except well done. You fixed Shalaxi. Okay. So that's cool. Herald, yes, that you can. Yeah, no wizard can try it more than once, but an unlimited number of wizards can attempt it. Yes. So yeah, she's good. Fiends not good, because fiends are companions based, which means they don't benefit from anything, and they're beasts, which is a new thing I suspect we'll see quite a bit across many units. This because this unit has a maximum control score of 1. So, yep. So that it only ever counts as 1. It can only ever hold an objective if there's literally nothing else standing on it, basically. I mean, they do grant strike last and stuff like that. They're 5 up, 6 up. I really don't back fiends. I can't imagine the points cost where I like them. Their lack of control capability, combined with the fact that, like, that passive disruptive song, you have to be really close to the enemy wizard, like probably too close for such a fragile unit. And I don't really care if they strike last. The damage isn't that impressive, and you can't buff them. So, yep, no good. Oh yeah, just to clarify back here, let's go back to this. The target's melee weapons have crit mortal. That is very relevant because it means that like your shooters aren't benefiting from that. Whereas up here, the unit's weapons have crit 2 hits. So your shooters can benefit from beating you for it, just to be clear. Okay. Twin Souls. As you can see, no abilities with their weapons. A thing you're probably going to get used to because they're relying on the battle trait to do the work. For the entire unit, Mr. J, a control score is the total of all models in the unit. So the unit never has a control score of more than 1. Uno. So if a single hero, if you've got 8 fiends, or I don't know, something, whatever, however they come in, 6 fiends, I don't know, some big number of fiends standing on an objective, and one hero walks onto it, you lose it. Are you saying I am complaining, Voids? Is that your thing? Okay. Well, I'm just talking about it, man. I'm saying what's good and bad, dude. Like, it is what it is, my man. Okay. So, Twin Souls. I like Twin Souls. I like Twin Souls a lot. In my experience, these are actually pretty solid. Like, big number of attacks, 4-up save, and can easily get a 5-up ward. And if they didn't charge, they subtract 1 from the attacks characteristic of melee weapons used by enemy units. Love these guys. I think these guys are actually really good. I love a unit with a really defined role, and I think these guys actually have a really defined role for the first time in their history. I'm excited about this unit. I got to watch this unit work. It works really well. It does exactly what you hope it does. So, like, yeah, this is great. You know, one of the funny parts about this article is and this is very much what I saw from watching Slaanesh play, is that they, like, battle trait wise and all of that stuff, it's actually pretty underwhelming / bad, but the scrolls are all just like perfectly fine, not amazing, but fine. And so if you you have to just play to the fundamentals like pretty strongly, and if you do so, you can find success. So I like these guys. I love things with a clearly defined role. I like things that clearly want to work in a pair with another unit, and these guys are both. Yeah, so I really dig the Twin Souls, and I think they're great. And obviously, it's a ton of attacks, just an absolute ton of attacks. Like, these guys throw just buckets of dice at people. I do agree, David Campbell, that it's weird that these are the ones they chose to be the anvils, because clearly the other ones like the Myrmidons are like have shields and stuff. It feels like these should be the offensive ones, but hey, why would logic ever come into designing scrolls for an army they don't play? I don't know if anyone in the design team plays this army, but I think you can generally feel the ones they don't. So okay. Yeah, we believe there is a minimum, that there's a rule that says your attacks can never go below 1. Okay. Finally, the Khaine. Our good old Khaine. 10 health, 4 up save. Probably not being as forward placed as it used to be, because people can blow it up, obviously. But it's nice. It's a perfectly nice thing. I quite like it, actually. Because it can hit any unit now, not just heroes who can prick themselves on the Khaine, but any He Knights of Slaanesh unit wholly within 12, which is a pretty big range off of this thing. And you take D3 damage that you can't make ward rolls against, which is stupid. They can make ward rolls against using depravity dice, but you're not allowed to make ward rolls against your own sacrifice, so that's fine, whatever. One or the other, people. But at any rate, you get +1 to wound, or +1 to run and charge, or +1 to cast. So that's cool. That's fine. Like, that's a perfectly good ability. You know, like, there's nothing wrong with that. It's a very useful terrain piece. It does something. So, you know, it's fine. Good stuff. David, I wouldn't worry about that. So, yeah, I mean, all in all, my issue with this article is what I'd really love to see. So we get down here with this word from the studio, and they explain to us about euphoric killers incorrectly. Like, there's nothing factually wrong. It's just, that's not how it actually works, right? Like, be clear about it. And my issue is, nowhere in here do they talk about, like, this is the play pattern of this army now, or how it could work. And that's my issue with these, of why they're ultimately not good. Is because what I actually want in my word from the studio is, we expect these units to act like this, the army will play like this. If you used to play like this, you won't play like that anymore. Okay, or something like that. We see this and this, X and Y and Z, as the play patterns for this army. Like, there's plenty of explanations you could give that would be completely interpretable and clear. Like, they could say, in the previous edition, Slaanesh armies that found success usually were running overwhelming amounts of shooters, Blissbarb archers, and seekers. We felt that we wanted this army to be more of a mixed arms. And so, as a result, we've done X and Y and Z. And the way this army will more often play is A and B and C. Like, why is that hard? Why is that too complicated? And, you know, like, also it's really hard when they've got to put lipstick on a pig like this allegiance ability, which is just straight bad. So, you know, there you go. Okay. My feeling on Slaanesh from having watched it be played, okay, was it has, like, it's certainly more fun and better than it was. The allegiance ability is just straight bad, and it's a trap. It's a trap. Like, get the admiral on the horn here, okay? Because it is a trap. And but, you know, like, if you're just okay with everybody else getting abilities and you don't have them, it's fine. Like, your people just get to be people who run around swinging weapons. Okay? And that's fine. Like, you just don't have abilities. Play your army according to the fundamentals, because you got some decent enough scrolls. So, I think that's the problem with this. This article gives you a very skewed version, because, like, it doesn't show you, they didn't show any of the shooting, which was, again, like, the definitive trait for the entire third edition of the army. And so, you know, like, they didn't speak back to how any of the They didn't speak back to how any of the army used to work. And like, it's a big change. Clearly, they're going to do some kind of change here. I'll tell you, there's a definite change in this army just from watching it happen. And that's weird. That's weird not to address that. And all of the worst faction focuses, in my estimation, are the ones that basically don't actually address that problem. Right? Because they clearly imply some large change to how the army works and then don't address that at all, like in any direct fashion. Be transparent about this stuff and it would be a lot nicer. Morgan H said it would be nice to have like info on what is their guiding principles for that army rather than like a little teaser for some of the rules. Exactly. And I agree, Clark, who says it would be very helpful for people who've never played AOS or maybe never played the army and they want to get into it. How do you expect this army to function? You wrote it with some kind of rules in mind. Like, when I've talked about Death Wizards, the newest game from Snarling Badger Studios, link in the description below, check it out, a game of necromantic skirmish combat available now. PDF and book is only $18 plus shipping. An incredible deal. The PDF alone $13, and you can pick up the supplementary cards for only $18. If you love grim and dark fantasy about necromancers raising the dead and taking their revenge, this is the game for you. At any rate, with Death Wizards, when we've talked about it, I can easily tell you like each legacy, what its play patterns are, how I expect each necromancer to play, how we tested it. I can talk about what the kinds of things you should expect if you're playing it, and we've talked about that in streams. Okay. Why is that too hard for them? Tom is correct. I don't want him on the show. No, it's just this is your week off, Tom. What are you talking about? This is specifically his week off, by the by. And he's over here complaining from a different continent. This guy. Tell you what. Okay. I'm with you there. Well, I don't know, Cold Shoulder. I have come to love some of the mortal units. I really do like Blissbarb. Or not Blissbarb. Sorry. Slickblade Seekers. I like the dudes with the glaives. I really like Twin Souls. I just think they look cool. Like some of the mortals have won me over, and I've always liked Hellstriders. But yeah, I get it. For people who want to like have a more demon or more mortal focused army, I'm sure there will be options if that's your focus. Let me say it that way. Okay. Yeah. So there you go. Yeah, I know, Tristan. It's truly shocking. And thank you, Byzantine. I appreciate that. Absolutely. There we go. Got to get those pitches down. Okay. So. Sweetheart, whatever you're doing, that's very audible. She can't hear me. Okay. She's making noise. No, it's fine. I just need that noise to be quieter. Okay. Let's talk about some of these other faction focus articles. Because I just want to go through and kind of make some quick compares of what I thought were some of the best and some of the worst. And why. Alright, so by the way, we had our Lumineth one. The Scions of Illumination. Good for these guys. Yet again, blah blah blah. Like, that's fine. That's quite a list of battle traits there. It's nice that Lumineth get battle traits they can use. That's exciting. Okay. So, yeah, within Lumineth, there's actually just one thing I wanted to focus on. They have lots of interesting stuff. You've got your endless spell thing here, and your Sanctum of Tuck, whatever. But I wanted to talk about Elana and Elithor. That was the main thing I wanted to talk about in this article. Because to me, this is a great example of the kind of thing that should be included in the article that's good. Like, they did the right thing here. By including Ella. Okay, good. They couldn't hear the sound. I'm sorry, dear. Well, that's fine. It sounded very loud to me.
I was making tea.
Oh, okay. Well, you can make tea. Enjoy your tea. Okay, it is tea time.
And having a stroop waffle.
That's fine. Stroop waffles and tea, absolutely. All right. Why do I like LNL in this preview? Because I think this was the right thing to include for multiple reasons. One, this was kind of a underrated unit previously. Like it often seemed cool. Yeah, I know I like man. I'm just saying it is neat. You can use them. Yeah, exactly. Sound is burnt. Oh man, your mom lets you have multiple battle traits. You guys have battle traits? That's how I feel about that right there. That I need that four-part meme. You get multiple battle traits? You guys have battle traits? Okay. Yes, indeed. I am in the Netherlands. Okay.
The stroop waffle gave it away, didn't it?
It did, yes. At any rate, why do I like this scroll being shared? Because this told us everything we want to know. One, she was underwhelming previously, or they, sorry, were underwhelming previously, and they look really cool here. Two, it showed a lot about what we would expect out of Elvish characters. Three, it showed Total Eclipse being on a scroll, the thing that that was like the universally worst thing in the world, right? And it showed that not only do we still have it, but it's one spell on one scroll, and it's fixed, right? Like that it's still in the same cast, but it's just now the first time they use the command within 18 inches, so it's only the first time, and it's only within a range of this unit. You have to spend the additional point. It shows that we took one of the most toxic things from the last edition and fixed it and made it usable, right? And then it gave us a cool ability, like the sudden translocation is really cool, right? So I really liked this. I like seeing the scroll. I like seeing how it works. It just gave you a good sense of the army. Now again, like I still would have liked to see more about how they thought the Lumineth work and stuff like that, but nonetheless. Severeth also was interesting. Giving him shoot in combat and stuff is fun. And it was nice that we got that, obviously he lost like 5 million abilities. And so, he felt a lot more fair or whatever now. So that's fine. Still very fast, still whatever. But you notice he did come down. Like he's not crazy move anymore. And I suspect we'll see that across the board. I don't want it. There's not, and I like that we got the Humble Warden in here as well. Crit Mortal, anti-charge +1 rend, not a spellcaster anymore. Again, answering all the key questions we had about Lumineth. Crit Mortal base, pretty good. Like, not bad. That's cool that you just get that, and they have anti-charge, so that seems good. Seems again like they're filling the role they should be filling. Like they have a if I didn't charge ability, and they can strike first. They have Crit Mortal. They have anti-charge rend. All good stuff. So I'm here for that. I like wardens look really interesting and good and like very elite infantry like elves. So that all seems good. People have told you to put the stroop waffle on top of the teacup so it gets warm and melting. Yes, she did. She knows how to eat a stroop waffle.
Oh yeah, it gets all gooey.
Yes.
And it's glorious.
Sure, absolutely. And that here they did at least cover some of the things. I thought the Lumineth was one of the better ones because Matt is actually talking about key changes in the army. Your massed units aren't spellcasters. They're present in the facets of war, which can be activated on every unit of that type, and so on. I'd still love to see more, but this was better. Yes, I agree. Byzantine says Crit Mortal means that wardens might actually do damage in combat. Hey, I mean, look, 2 attacks, 3s and 4s, Crit Mortal, even assuming they're not on the charge, it's still not bad. If they are, that's pretty good. Okay. All right. So I thought the Lumineth one was overall pretty good. Talked a little bit more about their playstyle. It clearly showed the units we wanted to see change. It showed what was going to change in the army, that kind of thing. Daughters of Khaine. We're going to go to one scroll here, folks. That's fine. They have their blood rights and stuff like that, and they get the all-out slaughter, so they can be Kraith. But we're going to one thing. Okay. The Shadow Queen. The reason I'm going straight to the Shadow Queen is because it was a big question in my mind whether or not they would keep her. I can only take 3 units or 3 damage around or turn. Sorry. And you know what? I'm glad they did. I've always liked this ability. People complain about this. I don't understand. I legitimately think this is a unique and interesting ability, and it's exactly how it should be done. This kind of there should be special abilities like this that only exist as a one-off in the game and only exist on very expensive special characters, because that's what should set them apart. Now, we can cost her accordingly. Like, I don't care. Whatever she needs to cost to make it fair is fine. She's 700 points or whatever. But, like, there should be unique, cool stuff in the game. Okay? Because interesting stuff like this is just, it makes the thing feel special. Okay? So I thought that was good. On the overall article, Elecman, I agree with you, right? What we didn't see was enough of how the buffs and synergy are going to work. And I agree, that is the heart and soul of Doc. Once again, like this one was a real mixed bag for me. Because I think you're exactly right, Elecman. You know, Doc has always been this synergistic back and forth army. Right? I agree, Willard. It's 3 damage per turn, 4 turn lifespan, big whoop, let her cook. That's right. That's right. You don't get the verisimilitude of the ability. I mean, the verisimilitude of the ability to me is that she has the iron heart of a god. Like she has the last remnant of a fallen god that she keeps on her personally, and it shields her from dying too quickly. That works for me. Right? And she doesn't. They got rid of the thing that that everybody hated, right? Which was the extra shoot. She doesn't have that anymore. Okay. And so, you know, that was the thing we'd been asking to fix forever. She's a powerful wizard. That is to say, she's Wizard 3. And she has a big monster form. Like, great. Good. Seems cool. She's a big, expensive monster. The thing that made her terrible was never the Iron Heart of Khaine. It was always the double shoot thing. Right? And that got changed over time and yada yada and different attempts to balance. But like, whatever, right? That was always the problem. You could play around with it or you can just get rid of it, and I'm glad we finally did. Then we get some of the other units, the Sisters of Slaughter, the Khaine, so on and so forth. And, you know, here they talk about there are lots of options to buff your units in different ways, from spells and prayers to the Cauldron of Blood. But again, we didn't see any of that. So, but at least here they, like, mentioned that this is still going to play the same way. So I guess that's good. Okay. Adam says, I like they kept Morathi's unique abilities, as I'm a little worried we're losing the character and flavor in units just a little with a more simplified approach. No, I'm glad too, Adam. And I'll say, from my experience, you know, having played some of 4th and having had some of this in action, seen some of this in action, you're not. The armies actually feel, I'll say this, most everything I saw and interacted with actually feels more like the army now than it did previously. So there you go. The Stormkeep. Sisters of Slaughter lost 6-inch pylon. Do you think they're removing 6-inch pylons entirely? Yes. And good. It shouldn't have ever made it out of 1st edition. It's insane that we still had that crap for as long as we did. It was a garbage ability. It was a garbage ability they gave to garbage units that let them run and charge and everything. It was crap on a cracker, and I'm glad it's dead. There you go. That's how I feel about that. And yes, I agree, Willard. Let the big unique characters have cool rules. You can only take one. And even then, it's going to be expensive as all heck, right? Okay. Oh, Bitmark, don't feel bad. It's great to have you here live. I appreciate it. All right. I got a couple other faction-focused articles I want to touch on here. Bone Reapers. Bone Reapers was interesting. We needed to go deeper. The thing about Bone Reapers, this is another army I have got to see in action, is it's really interesting because of sort of the, I will say, there's not as much choice here as you think there is. Oftentimes, it's just pretty obvious what you're going to do. I'll say that. But Bone Reapers definitely changed its playstyle. And you get that kind of lightly here throughout the thing. But what I'll say is, you know, it's definitely a different feeling army. I also love that we got Vogue Mortian and the Soul Mason and not, you know, come on, really? That's your choice? Not, oh, I don't know. Who could we include in here? Maybe Catacrows? Everybody else. That's why I said most of these articles like this. So, but at any rate. I thought the OBR one was okay. My issue with it is, it's sort of, this one felt better. This is on the upper side of them to me. Because this one kind of gave you the idea that this is going to be a more castle-y, kind of careful bubble army. And I think that is very much how it'll play. So, you know, and that's fine. I do love that this is a damage 1 blade. That's very funny. But in my estimation, this is still actually a good unit. And I actually think for multiple different reasons. One of which being that control score thing. Pay attention, I think, to, from my experience, pay attention to things that can play with control score. They're way better than you think they are. So there you go. That's my answer there. But the Bone Reapers one was, you know, it was fine. I just, again, why didn't we get Catacrows or Archon? That's weird. I know people have said they don't think Stalkers are good. I get it, Cyrus. This is a big change. Like a big change. But I actually don't think these guys are. I've got to watch these guys cook. And I'll say I was more impressed by them than you think, than by reading it. Like, it's one of those things where I get it. I absolutely understand the hit, because when you read it, it reads a lot differently than it used to. Boy, oh boy, does it. So there you go. But I do think they're, I do think they will have a role. That's my statement. Okay, let's quickly move through a few others here. Sons of Behemat. Again, this is an army I got to see work. So excited about this one. Obviously, your special thing here is that you can do lots of, you know, rampages or whatever, which is fine. This is like a super combat army. It cares about combat. It's super combat, and that's fine. That's what it wants.
They want to see the cheese wheel.
Sure.
But I'm making you carry through the airport.
There you go. That's the cheese. It's quite heavy. There you go. Okay.
There's for your peoples. And
Sure.
yes, I miss the dogs too.
We all miss the dogs. Okay. So King Broad rules now. I mean, he always ruled, but he rules even more now. I like the drop of control characteristic when they get injured. That's fine. It is on a different number than what we've seen from a lot of the other stuff. But he is really interesting as a priest. Priest 1. He's no longer locked to have his prayers only be once a game. He can now just chant every turn. And my instinct here is that you are going to that when you're playing Sons of Behemat, one, you're going to have King Broad a lot. Two, you need to assume you only have 3 command points a turn. Because you are going to counter prey off turn every turn. Because why wouldn't you? It opens up the door to actually getting off your 10 plus and being able to pick 2 things. And the fact that you can heal across your whole army is good. We've brought things like that back in the country before, Bruce. I'm not worried. Okay. So at any rate, I think, my only concern here is Broad is strong. In fact, Suns came out looking pretty darn strong, as a matter of fact. You see the Gatebreaker, all these things, like, there's not a lot to obviously preview. I love that the War Stomper can actually run his attack number way up now. Like, his bonus doesn't cap. Exciting about that, although there's not a lot of big giant units he's going to get that against. So, that's fine. Because, obviously you can't double reinforce things anymore. But all in all, Suns, I watched them play. They're good. And yes, they're they're like, it's still a DPS check army. It will be a DPS check army. That's what's going to happen. I think this is very much a way, like a watch army. This is one we got more of a preview than we did for almost anything else. It's 4 dudes likely still. That is to say, it's probably 3 megas and a group of babies or something like that, and that's your army. And I suspect that's still very much the way they play, and I suspect they'll still very much be a DPS check army. But cutting their control score in half at 15 wounds is certainly doable. Okay. Nurgle. This was a big one because this is one where, this is one of the worst ones for me. Because you see how disease works now, and it's so different, and then they didn't go into any detail with it. Like, when you make a change this big to the way something works, something core works, it behooves some more explanation. And plus, I wish they would explore these more. Like, when you're going to make a big change, show the new thing, and then explore some of the other ways you're going to work with that throughout the army. Like, does anything work with this? What triggers off it? Etc., etc. Right? So that's all. That's my commentary on Nurgle. Is I wish they had gone into more detail on, like, okay, disease seems fairly weakish now. All right? But, like, what does that mean? Are there other things that will mess with disease? Is there other things that trigger off being diseased? Is there more ways to spread disease? All that kind of stuff. And I wish they had kind of dove into that a little more deeply than what they did in the article. Okay. Idoneth. I didn't have a lot to say about Idoneth. It was fine. People seemed excited about Idoneth. I was honestly looking for your feedback on this one. This has been an army I've never been close to. No one in my club plays this one, so I never get to see Idoneth in action. Konstantinos, Dino, if you're still here, how did you feel about Idoneth? I'll have to put it in the chat and tell me. Hey, what's up, Haywo? We're almost to it, Haywo. I'm just talking about what went wrong in some of these faction focus articles and what went right. I don't have any opinion on the Idoneth one because, again, I don't know the army well enough. We still kept our tides. I guess that's fine enough. My question is, what did people think of the Idoneth one? I'm looking for feedback. There you go. Yes, exactly. Hugo said, I missed that most in the Tzeentch and the Weird Flame. We have no idea how it interacts. Exactly. For Tzeentch and Weird Flame, like diseased, the burning in there, like with Euphoric, you got to see kind of part of the interaction because they then showed a spell that interacts with it. So at least that was good. For like disease, they didn't really show anything else that interacts with it in any big way. Same with the Weird Flame in Tzeentch, which we'll get to in a minute. And it's like, if you're going to introduce this whole new concept, show us how some of this like is going to build. Dino said, long story short, extremely content. Okay, cool. Bitmark says, IDK are my main army, so I really love them. I think they didn't change a whole lot in general, which is fine. Okay. They kept high movement and fly. IDK looked solid. Interesting shakeup on their defensive eels. Everyone else got slower. Okay. Okay. So there you go. Simple enough on IDK. Good. I'm glad this one was all right. My question is, do you feel like you got a sense of how the army's going to play out of this one? That's my question for everybody. All right. Let's talk about what was maybe the most brutal weapon. The most brutal faction focus, which was Mawtribes. Now, what was interesting about this one, and this has got to be my worst, okay? This has to take the title for worst. And let me explain why I think it's the worst. It's not because I think it necessarily looks bad or whatever. It certainly changed a lot. There's stuff in Ogres that looks quite strong. The issue was, and this is the same thing I said about the Slaanesh article, if you're going to clearly change the playstyle so significantly for a big portion of this army, right? Like, hungry and eating completely changed. The whole army got slower. You do a lot less mortal wounds on the charge, right? Like, all of that happened. And I'm sorry, Haywo, if you're still watching and I'm giving you flashbacks. I did watch I watched Haywo's reaction on a long drive 2 weeks ago or whatever, and it was, cathartic, I suppose. At any rate, if you're going to change, then fine. Show them what to be, exactly what he said. Show him what he gets in return. What is there to be excited about, right? Especially if you're a certain type of player. Like, be aware of the play patterns of this army. And that's my point. Like, in some of these articles, they clearly address the most sort of pressing things people would have at the top of their mind. The Lumineth one's a good example. Wardens, core of the army. How do they work? Well, they're the anti-charge unit. They still do crit mortals. They're not a wizard. They do crit mortals automatically. They're not a wizard anymore, right? You got to see Ella get improved. You saw Total Eclipse got fixed. Like, it was exactly kind of what I wanted out of the Lumineth article, right? And yet, if this one, it was as though the people who wrote the article had no concept of what Ogre players did, right? Or how they played. Like, it was just a total mystery as to what exactly what their play patterns were. And it has to be obvious to you, if you play this army in any way, that like Monster Truckathon is one of the major play patterns of this army. I have played against Monster Truckathon at multiple tournaments, and I hate it. I hate Haywo's army. I want that to be said. I want this on the record. It is one of my least favorite matchups. Multiple years at NashCon, all Monster Trucks Ogres were my only loss in a 4-1. Playing different armies. Because it was such a truck and such a counter to everything that I happen to be running. One year I ran Suns, and I had a Stonehorn Beast Riders, a regular Stonehorn Beast Riders, take my Gatebreaker Gargant from unwounded to dead in one charge. Like, not just mortals on the charge, but that was part of it. That is a really above average performance for Stonehorn Beast Riders, right? At any rate, they have to know that was a play pattern. And yet it's like not addressed in here at all. It's like clearly you butchered that play pattern and yet never talked about what is the other thing you're going to have instead, or how should we expect this to play. Again, this was the worst article because it is the most in the center of what I've been talking about, right? Which is the designer focus at the end should be saying, in previous times, lots of people ran blah, all monster trucks, right? And we didn't want people to just run monster trucks. Like I'm imagining here, right? I don't know this is the case. I literally have to fill in this blank. So I'm just guessing. And so as a result, we wanted people to mix it up more. So we've done these following things. Maybe we made them all cheaper, but it's, they're not as effective, but we want you to have some regular ogres in there, or we think you should also mix in Mournfang, who we made better, or whatever, right? Like I'm just making stuff up. All right. If they want to change the play pattern, fine, change the play pattern. That's okay, right? Like things change over time. We have to be accepting of it. It's okay. But if you're going to change the play pattern, talk about it. Explain to people why they should be excited. What's the cool thing in their army? Showing them a spell where they get to screw with terrain and Kragnos, like all of this stuff is not good. And like, yeah, sure, they had to lose Blood Vulture because ranged mortal wounds are basically gone out of the game, which is a good thing, by the way. I'm glad ranged mortal wounds are basically gone out of the game. But they took a lot of hits in this article. Now, do Gluttons look really strong? Yeah, sure. Gluttons look really strong, points dependent, right? Because they look like they're really high control and will be like very hard to move off of objectives, which is fine. Like a base unit of 6 of them will pretty easily go to a control score of 18. That's a lot of control. In a world where you can't double reinforce units, that means they're probably holding most things they're sitting on. Okay, cool. So is that the new play pattern? Is that one of the new play patterns, right? Where we feel like how Ogre should play now is like move up aggressively, take objectives, and then hold them and force the opponent to move them off, right? Kind of an alpha block army. I don't know. Maybe that's it, right? Maybe the play pattern is we want you to be like an alpha beta strike army where it's like you hold with some a unit of gluttons and then somebody charges you, and then if they don't remove you, then you go back in and countercharge them with one of your monster trucks and blow them up or something like that. Like, I don't know. And that's the problem, right? So regardless of anything they may or may not have, it really sucks when you don't explain what's going to be good. And in the end here, we wanted to keep the key identity of Ogre Mawtribes intact, aka smashing things and chopping them up while giving the player more tactical options. That's nothing. Stop talking in marketing language. Talk in real terms. We all know there are words we use when we describe how an army plays. Use those words. Use your words. Right? So, that's all I'm asking. That's why this was the worst to me. Because it took the most away, gave the least in return, and gave the least fine picture of how is this army supposed to play. Yeah, Saul, you may be right that this is like that they want foot ogres as being the new direction. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Right? Again, the 5+ armor save, if it's just meat, it's just a lot of wounds. Remember, Electman, like a lot of things in this edition are a lot worse at doing damage. Okay? Like there's a lot more 4-up to hit in this edition, and so on and so forth. So, things are less killy. So just having a big pile of wounds can often, in this edition, will be very powerful on its own. Hence my concern over Mega Gargants, because I am very worried about the DPS check on them. In an edition with lower average damage, that seems very scary. Especially in a world where King Broad can be out there potentially healing the entire army D3 twice around. Right? Okay. So, at any rate, the last one I had here, just to close out on, because there was one more horrible sin I wanted to mention in these that actually made the Tzeentch one the worst for me, but not for any reason of their doing. I thought the Tzeentch one was okay. It suffers from all the problems we've talked about. They don't explain really much. I mean, you can assume it's a spellcasting army, so that's fine. We can sort of assume more about how this plays. Spellcasting killbox army, got it. Same as always, right? But they introduced the whole weird flame burning thing, which is apparently interesting enough to be an actual allegiance ability. And yeah, Ellen, I agree. Lower average damage, king broad, healing, giants can rally. Yes, that is all. Those are all true statements. Now, why did I hate the Tzeentch article most of all? The Ogre article was the worst overall article, but the Tzeentch, like, sort of averaged, it was the worst. But the Tzeentch article had the thing that made me the most angry. Creator, it is a play pattern we did experiment with. It can be done. You can run into time challenges where you just can't do enough, but otherwise it does work. It can be part of your strat, yeah. Okay. So, there was a thing in Tzeentch that made me more angry in this article than anything I've watched so far, or anything I read so far, sorry. And I'm going to take you straight to it. Can anybody guess what it is? Can anybody guess what the thing is in Tzeentch that made me so mad? And it's not just them getting this new weird flame ability when they clearly didn't need all this crap. Every edition we have to give Tzeentch, every book, we have to give Tzeentch some new weird allegiance ability that only lasts one time. Which is what's funny about it. Like, every time it was like, oh, we're going to have secret missions for them. Nope, those are gone. We're going to have this. Nope, that's gone. Like, every time it's some new weird thing. For those of you who guessed Kairos, you are correct. It was Kairos Fateweaver. One specific thing. And that is right there in that text where it says, once per battle reaction, you declared the Tactical Gambit ability. Dinos is exactly correct. Now, what is the Tactical Gambit ability? Well, it'll be obvious to you in just a second, but it's the thing you use to choose a battle tactic. That is true, David Campbell and Cody. Change is on his resume, so I guess it is appropriate that Tzeentch changes allegiance abilities every time. Yeah, that's fair. This is complete nonsense. Okay. I'm just going to read the thing, and then I'll talk about the problems. Effect. Pick one of the following effects. Read the past. You can pick one battle tactic that you have already attempted. Okay. So I just can do it again. Or read the future. You can pick two battle tactics that you have not yet attempted, but you can only complete one of them. Even if you meet the conditions to complete both, the other does not count as having been attempted. If you do not complete either battle tactic, you can pick which does not count as having been attempted. Okay. Well, Greg, just don't mess with combat range is the answer there. It's a problem if they mess with combat range, but just don't ever mess with combat range. Keep it 3 inches always. Easy. It's a third rail. Speaking of third rails, this is a third rail. Stop it. Stop it. Get help. Okay? Like, hey, everybody. In 4th edition AOS, we rewrote everything from the ground up and introduced a modular system. This new modular system means that, in certain game modes, you can or cannot use things. For example, we have game modes where you don't use battle tactics. Great. Okay. Cool. Okay. Then don't write things from the modules into the basic war scrolls of the thing. That is so dumb. Because now there are 2 worlds that this stupid ability resides in. 1, it is way too good. Okay? That's option number 1. It's just way too good. Because obviously screwing with battle tactics is huge. Being able to pick one you already failed is huge. Being able to attempt 2 of them and just seeing which one you get is way too big. Like, obviously, this is way too big. Like, I can't even explain why this is so bad. If you don't immediately see why this is bad, I don't know what to say to you. But this is terrible. This is a third rail, and we're just grabbing a hold of it. And at the same time, if you're not using that module, congratulations. This is ipsum lorem text. What are we doing here? I hate it. I hate it. Now, Electman says, by that logic, wizards and priests shouldn't exist because those are modules, right? Well, in the things where they don't use those modules, right? They rewrite the spellcasting, okay? So that they still function. But you're right, it is pushing in the same space. But that's why I don't think spellcasting is actually a module. Like, they said that and then immediately broke their rule. This one is bad for two reasons. So even if you don't care about the modular thing, okay, the fact that they wrote this on here is terrible. This is just way too strong. Again, I like things that are unique abilities on named characters. I started this show, or didn't start the show, I talked about it earlier in the show with Doc. So pick unique abilities for people like Kairos. That's fine. But not freaking this. Because this is so directly toward winning the game. Like, in the end, Marathi's special ability means she just exists. I'm here for unique abilities. I'm not here for unique broken abilities. And this is just broken in multiple ways. So there you go. All right. So that was my feelings on the faction focuses so far. Like I said, we're going to keep the show shorter today. What I want you to drop in the comments below is, what of the faction focuses were your favorites? Which one did you like? Which one haven't you liked? That kind of thing. You know, I want to hear your voice. I want to know what you think, okay? I want to know how you found these faction focuses. I want to know if you enjoyed the one for your army or what they didn't tell you. Do you want to see more just like plain talk of this is how the army plays? Okay. No, I agree, Derek. I mean, I agree. You're absolutely right. They're not modular. They're not. You're right. You're right. I've got to say you're right, Derek. Okay. Big Tom, you did miss Slaanesh. Long story short on Slaanesh, the scrolls seem fine. Shalaxi rules. In watching Slaanesh play, if you ever give away more than one dice, you're committing suicide. You have a battle trait that buffs your opponents well much more than it buffs you. There you go. That's the read on Slaanesh. Your battle trait is terrible, it's awful, and it's your only one. And if you ever use more than one dice, you're basically asking to lose. There you go. Hey, absolutely, Donnie. Happy to help. Okay. I'll talk about the Gits. Don't worry. At some point, I'll talk about Gits because I went with Gits. I can't wait till we just have all these PDFs because I really want to deep dive all of these armies and talk about their play patterns and stuff like that. Like that's what we're all waiting for. Okay. All right. So at any rate, thank you everybody for watching. Don't forget, tell me how you feel about everything. Drop it down in the comments. Do all that stuff. Hit like, hit subscribe, support the show. Thank you for putting up with a hotel show. I hope this is okay for everybody. It's a busy travel couple of weeks for me. And so, you know, I do appreciate everybody still sticking with us. Hope everybody enjoyed this Eurozone friendly time today. Drop those comments, hit like, support the show. There's links down there. There's merch store. There's affiliate links. You can hit those. They save you money, and you can get your cool hobby gear, and it gives the channel a nice little kickback. There's our Patreon down there. Don't forget our newest game, Uncle Adam and I's newest game, Death Wizards, is out now. The game of necromantic skirmish combat. You can find all the link for that down in the comments below, or down in the description. Sorry, check that out. Remember, the PDF and book is only $18 plus shipping. The PDF alone, $13. You can pick up the supplementary cards that are optional for $18. If you love grim and dark stuff, if you are fans of things like Mordheimer, that kind of thing, check out Death Wizards. You're gonna love it. It's really fun, and I've been so excited to see everybody in the Discord talking about their horde that they've been getting together and all of that. So just really excited about the reception that Death Wizards has gotten. So check it out down there. So thank you all, everybody, for watching. We really appreciate it. As always, see you next Wednesday.